Every 10 years, the spotlight falls on a small town in Bavaria when its residents recreate the story of Christ's suffering and death. 500,000 visitors flock then to Oberammergau. They come from all over the world, but the villagers don't perform the Passion Play just for tourists. They do it because they made a vow to God to commemorate his goodness in this way, when the plague, the Black Death, threatened their village with extinction 400 years ago.
The Passion Play lives from the fact that we have a message and that we derive that message from the Gospels. We ask ourselves, what's important today? And we focus on particular aspects of the story. We look for the themes that are important for contemporary society. Of course, the death of Jesus is central to the Passion Play, but we ask, why did he die on the cross? That's what we need to focus on. Why were the people so angry? Why were the religious leaders against him? Why did people follow him, and what did he want to achieve? We have to show all that in our Passion Play. At least that's our intention.
October 2018. Preparations are underway for the next Oberammergau Passion Play. In a few minutes, the names of the 2020 cast will appear on this board. For the past 10 years, the director, Christian Stuckel, has wrestled with the difficult question: which of the town's residents is most suited to portray Jesus, or his mother Mary, or Pontius Pilate? Now, he's made his choice, and it's been confirmed by the town council behind closed doors.
In every other theatre in the world, the director chooses the cast he wants. But here it's not so simple. Every resident born in Oberammergau or has lived here for 20 years has the right to a role in the Passion Play. So whether I want to or not, I have to cast them. I never start with a number. For my first production, in 1990, I had 1,400 adults. Now we have 1,900 adults and 450 children. And I like the fact that the qualification of being born in Oberammergau or living here for 20 years says nothing about the person's social standing or religion, their gender or their orientation. It's a cross-section of our village.
There's a lot of media interest. Who will portray Jesus? 2 actors are chosen. One of them has already played the role twice. Frederick Myatt remembers the first time he was cast.
I wasn't expecting it because I was in awe of the part. Then suddenly I saw my name on the board and I was gobsmacked. It changes your life from one day to the next. As the man who portrays Christ, you have a responsibility towards the village and the Passion Play. You're the focus of attention, and you have to deal with that.
There are 2 actors for each of the main roles. They alternate in more than 100 performances, but everybody listed on the board knows that their life will change. After months of rehearsing, they will perform the Passion Play for half a year. That's hard to reconcile with a normal job. Whoever plays one of the main roles usually has to take vacation for the length of the run. The Passion Play demands everything of the participants. But it's not just the main roles that are announced today. Christian Stuckel and assistant director Abdullah Karaka have also decided who's to play Roman soldiers and residents of Jerusalem. More than 2,000 people will take part in the production. For most Oberammergau families, it's a tradition that's passed down from one generation to the next.
Yes, the tradition is almost 400 years old. Everybody has pictures in their home showing granddad as a Roman soldier or grandma as Mary Magdalene. Everybody has some kind of connection. And even people who have just arrived in the village want to be involved in some way. For 12 months, people hardly talk about anything but the Passion Play.
Who's been given what role is the talk of the town. In a few months, the so-called hair and beard edict will be proclaimed. From then on, men may no longer shave or cut their hair, unless, of course, they're Roman soldiers.
For me personally, it's a sign that we're all getting ready for the Passion Play. Quite literally, growing into the role. With a population of some 4,500, Oberammergau lies 100 kilometres south of Munich, on the northern edge of the Alps. Germany's highest peak, the Zugspitze, and King Ludwig II's fairy tale palace, Linderhof, are close by. No wonder the village is one of Bavaria's most popular tourist destinations. Although the Passion Play is staged only once every 10 years, it has a permanent influence on the village. The gospel story is painted on the facades of houses in all its variations. The numerous souvenir shops sell carvings of saints, apostles and crucifixes. Oberammergau represents a tradition that makes the gospel narrative accessible in many forms. The village's crucifix carvers are as famous as its Passion Play, which has been attracting visitors since the 19th century.
The British, the Swedish, and the Danish royals, and the Austrian Habsburgs have all been here.
Frederick Mayert knows he'll be tied up here for the next 10 months. 5 times a week, from mid-May until October, the residents of Oberammergau will rehearse Jesus' suffering and death. Each performance lasts more than 5 hours. It's a mammoth undertaking.
500,000 visitors come from all over the world to see the Passion Play. And as Jesus, you are at the center of things. So you have a responsibility each day that you appear on the stage to perform as well as you possibly can, to go to bed early the night before, to know all the lines, to stay healthy. Because when the actor portraying Jesus has had a bad day, it's especially noticeable.
There's a festive atmosphere in Oberammergau today. The villagers enjoy celebrating, and they also like to do so on stage. 12 months before the Passion Play, they put on a show depicting the plague that led to the village committing itself to a tradition of religious theatre. It's the year 1633. The Black Death is ravaging southern Germany, bringing still more death and destruction in the wake of the 30 Years' War. The village goes into lockdown to stave off the epidemic. But a man from a neighbouring village already infected with the plague manages to circumvent the watchmen. The result is predictable. The Black Death carries off children, women and men. The gravedigger, played by Rochus Ruckel, who's also one of the actors portraying Jesus in the Passion Play, has his hands full. Finally, the residents of Oberammergau discover a way out of their suffering.
Ein Kreuz müssen wir errichten, größer als je zuvor, so groß, dass es die ganze Welt sieht. Ein Kreuz für die ganze Welt. Alle werden sie kommen, zu hören, wie Gott wieder zu ihnen spricht. Wir müssen selber aufs Kreuz steigen, vom Leben und Sterben Christi zu künden. Ein Spiel, das das Leiden und Sterben Jesu darstellt.
The promise to stage a Passion Play every 10 years eventually defeated the plague. The village chronicle relates that from the day they took the vow, nobody in the village died of the disease.
Nur Gott. Alle zusammen müssen wir Gott wieder lebendig machen.
October the 20th, 2018. On this day, it's not just actors appearing on the stage of the Oberammergau Theatre, but real priests. In an ecumenical service, the village residents renew the vows of 1633, as they do before every staging of the Passion Play.
Eingedenk des Gelübdes und getreu dem Verspruch unserer Vorfahren führt Oberammergau im Jahre 2020 das Passionsspiel auf.
Shema Israel, a Jewish prayer set to music by choir master Markus Zwick, is one of the great Passion hymns.
I think there's a different approach to religion in Oberammergau, but often outside of the church. The church has the same problems here as in the neighboring villages.
Der Herr lasse sein Angesicht leuchten über euch und sei euch gnädig.
The Oberammergau performers don't view their Passion Play as a specifically Catholic event and haven't for decades. But when director Christian Stuckel gave one of the main roles to a Muslim, it caused something of a stir.
I can also pray in Arabic, because we Muslims also pray in Arabic. My whole family, who live as Muslims, even my relatives in Turkey, my grandmothers and grandfathers and my cousins are all pleased. They know very well that it's a Christian play, but they say, it's great you're doing it. You don't have to be a Christian to understand religion.
When the cast is presented to the media, there's special interest in the fact that Cengiz Guru, a Muslim, will be playing the traitor Judas.
I've been asked if it's a provocation that a young man from a Turkish family is playing Judas. No, it's not. In casting the roles, my only consideration is who I can envision playing them. Who do I see in the role? How good is he on stage? They'll devour sheep and cattle. They will not stop. Get worked up.
Winter 2019. The first rehearsals are called. They're held in the town's smaller theatre. The actors familiarise themselves with the new script in small groups. Playing Judas, Cengiz Guru tries to persuade Jesus to lead a rebellion against the Roman occupiers. This concentrated work on the script opens up new perspectives.
My image of Jesus has changed a bit. After all the changes to the script, we're changing the performance a bit and also seeing the roles a bit differently. I thought to myself, Jesus is really more than Jesus. He was a person who wanted to teach people how to behave towards each other, to love one another, even when it's hard. No violence. Violence is no solution. You have to draw the good out of people and not simply hope for the best. People have to stand up and do something themselves, and the people didn't understand that.
They're stupid. When somebody slaps us in the face, we're supposed to tolerate it.
Stuckel is insistent the actors imagine how their character thinks and feels. This involves dealing with religious issues.
If you aren't really interested in what we're portraying here, and that includes an interest in religion, then you can't be part of it. In many of the discussions we've had here, of course, I've noticed that he brings a different perspective, a Muslim perspective, to the Last Supper and other things. He has a genuine interest in the production.
If you go to lead them, the people will rise and will drive the wretched Romans from our land.
Do not be afraid of the Romans. Do not be afraid of those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, be afraid of the one who can destroy both soul and body. Love your enemies. Of course, when you have one of the big roles, you have to approach it differently. And I must say, I found a completely new understanding through the Passion Play and by portraying Jesus. I think about the themes and Jesus' message quite differently. And I have to say, I've developed a new enthusiasm for the themes. I view it as a great gift to be able to think about these issues so intensely. Otherwise, you can perhaps only do this as a student of theology. We have the opportunity to think about them intensely every 10 years.
Ist das Gottes Haus oder ist es ein Marktplatz?
I often used to think that Jesus is arrogant when he says, "I am the way." But I think he means it differently. I am the way to God. I'll show you. I'll tell you. If you do this and be like this, the society in which we live would be better. Jesus is often quite pragmatic and straightforward. He says, if somebody's hungry, give him something to eat. When somebody's naked, give him clothes. When he's a stranger, give him shelter. That's very simple. And that's what makes me think Jesus is like a compass. He knows what's good and what's bad. And actually, everyone knows intuitively what's good and what's bad. And Jesus challenges us to follow that inner voice and say, do what's good and don't do what's bad. That's very simple. It orientates you on God, on what's better in the world, on what's more just.
Besseres in der Welt, auf was Gerechtes in der Welt. Und ich glaube, diese Botschaft.
And I think that churches have sometimes forgotten how to bring this message across. They often focus on whether it's right to let divorcees who've remarried go to communion, and the bishops are suddenly important. But Jesus was definitely with the people. He broke bread with Judas. Nobody's perfect. You have to be able to forgive. And he shared bread with somebody who maybe did something wrong. I think Jesus wouldn't think about it for a second. Marriages can crash. Sometimes it happens. But when somebody finds a new partner, he shouldn't be excluded.
Vater, wenn es nicht möglich ist, dass diese Stunde an mir vorübergeht, so geschehe dein Wille. Ja, Vater, dein Wille geschehe.
Ich mache das jetzt zum 4. Mal.
This is my 4th production, and I remember when I was 25 and directed the Passion play for the first time, the actor playing Jesus had to take a lot from me. I was a young rebel, so Jesus had to be rebellious too. It was very important to me that Jesus was rebellious. But one grows older, and suddenly in 2010 I thought, it's not important to me at all whether he's loud. And suddenly I discovered places in the Gospels that said, I will not cry out, and one will not hear my voice in the streets. He wasn't somebody who got ahead through noise and rebelliousness, but resolutely. And it's really interesting that you discover Jesus anew every 10 years. For the 2020 production, the context suddenly became much more important to me. How refugees and people on the margins of society are treated. I discovered the social Jesus much more strongly, and I thought, it's crazy that there were similar social issues 2,000 years ago. I was a stranger, and you didn't give me shelter. I was poor, and you didn't give me anything to eat. If you look in that direction, you suddenly find that Jesus gives very clear answers as to how we treat foreigners and refugees, or people on the margins of society. We shouldn't treat them as we do. It's not what Jesus intended.
Oberammergau in the grip of bitter cold. Even though there haven't been the usual heavy snowfalls this year, the Passion Play Theatre is the largest building in the village and was constructed in 1898 especially to stage the play. Some other musical and theatrical performances also take place here, but it's first and foremost the Passion Play Theatre. The full rehearsals are held in freezing temperatures. For the first time in the history of the Passion Play, each actor is registered electronically. Attendance at rehearsals is compulsory. Another reason to check attendance, even actors playing minor roles receive some financial compensation.
Wenn man dann das erste Mal praktisch
The first rehearsals in the Passion Play Theater give you a wonderful feeling. Before that, we rehearsed in a little theater. But here you have the feeling that these people are people you've hardly seen for 10 years. Suddenly, the village gathers and stands together on the stage, and there are wonderful people among them. You come to the Passion Play Theater for the first time aged 4 or 6 or 7. Then, 10 years later, you're a teenager, and you recognize that it's a great experience. The village has a great time putting on this production. People develop an emotional connection to the Passion Play very young, as a child or as a teenager. The youngest have just as much right to be on stage as the oldest, people over 90, and it's a great experience for all of them, a wonderful time.
But this year, rehearsals were overshadowed by alarming reports of a life-threatening virus. On March the 11th, the World Health Organization declared COVID-19 a pandemic. Could the play still be staged? With just 3 months to go before the first performance, unfinished props lay scattered around the auditorium.
The Passion Play is part of our DNA. We need it. You get that feeling at rehearsals. I have it now when I call a rehearsal for 450 kids. They come straight away. Form little groups. Run around and shout. Sheep and goats. Kick up a racket. That's the orchestra pit. Watch out. I always say that's why the Passion Play has survived so long, because it's our biggest social event. Everyone meets up from every section of society. Women, men, children and teenagers, old and young. It's simply our biggest social event, and everybody wants to take part.
Nehmt, was euer ist, und verlasst die heilige Stätte.
Christian Stuckel is a hands-on director.
So, und erst wird es nicht, und dann geht's noch. Dann geht's noch. Erst einmal der Tumult, und dann Scheiß, und durcheinander! Meine Eltern haben gestürzt! Ersetzt mir den Charter! Also, richtig Charter machen!
March 19, 2020. Flags at the entrance to Oberammergau advertise the great event, but a shadow has fallen on the production this year. The village council, which even embellishes its coat of arms with the Passion Play, has called a press conference. The play has to be cancelled.
Oberammergau has, of course, become economically dependent on the Passion Play. And this will probably hit lots of people hard. What we've seen very clearly at rehearsals during the past few weeks is that the residents of Oberammergau are totally committed to their Passion Play, and everybody's sorry it won't take place now. At that moment, I felt almost relieved, but the actors were also standing around the square, other people who I knew were crushed by the decision. They take an unpaid vacation or dropped out of university for a term. We've rehearsed almost every evening for months on end. It was like a bubble bursting, and I also feel deflated.
Und so bin ich an dem Tag auch ein bisschen platzt.
When they canceled the play, lots of people were depressed. So was I. It was like somebody pulling the rug out from under your feet. All my plans for next year were turned upside down.
It was decided yesterday evening that we won't cancel the Passion Play. It's postponed until May 21st, 2022.
It's ironical that the threat of a pandemic, What's made Oberammergau famous for 400 years has now temporarily closed the village. The portrayal of Christ's suffering and death, which the residents of Oberammergau vowed to perform when their village was struck by the plague in 1633, famously ends with Christ's resurrection. That message of hope is part of Oberammergau's legacy. This time, the actors will just have to wait another 2 years to proclaim it.
Christian Stückel said everyone will play the same parts. We'll all come together in 2 years. Let's hope in good health. I'm already looking forward to it.